disclaimer before I start today's video. I would just like to say that my study methods are always changing. I found with language that if you do the same thing every day for months, it's gonna wear you down. You need to switch up your resources, you need to switch up your means of studying, and this is the means that I've been doing for the past few months, and it seems to be working very well. The other thing I'd like to say is that I don't always do all of these things every day. I usually do, I'm usually pretty good, but some days I might not feel up to it, and I don't beat myself up over it. I'll just do what I can and be fine. So let's get started. Every morning, usually even before I use the restroom, I get started with vocab. So lately I've been using this N1 kanji book. I take the vocab from here, I put it into my Anki decks, I'll make a little chart for the pitch accent, I'll add an English definition, and I'll add a sentence in Japanese to help me remember the word. Another way I get my vocab is throughout my day while I'm watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading articles online. If I see a Japanese word I don't know, I'll write it down in my notes app, and then each morning when I'm adding more words to my Anki deck, I'll add that word in as well, adding a sentence and adding a pitch accent chart. If any of you guys don't know what Anki is, it's basically just a flashcard app. It's really good, it's special. If you want a separate video on this, please let me know and I'd be happy to make one. Another thing I started doing more recently is that for each word that I add to my Anki deck, I also write down. I really want to practice writing. I noticed myself only using my phone, only using a laptop a lot of the times, but it's really important for me to be able to write Japanese as well, and I've even found it helps in memorization. So I'll write it on a flashcard, put it on my wall. It's weird, but it's cool. It helps me always see the words, always remember. A little fun exercise I do is these post-its aren't that secure on my wall, so often they'll fall off, and if a post-it falls off, I need to re-review it. I need to check the reading if I forgot it, and before I can put it back up on the wall. If it loses all its stickiness, then I have to get a new card and rewrite it and then put it back up. Hopefully you guys can see the screen well enough, but basically this is just the Anki homepage. These are my 3 different decks I have. This is the one I've been adding to as of late. So here's my workflow each morning. I take Anki, I split it on half of my screen. I take my browser, split it on the other half, usually the browser a bit bigger, and I have 2 different tabs open at all times. I have this tab, which is a pitch accent tab, so it'll show you the intonation you need for each word. You can type in any word, it'll show you, and jisho.org is a great app for finding sentences and for finding useful definitions. So here's my workflow. I'll open my deck, I'll click add new. First word, I'll check my notes app, see which new words I learned yesterday. This one's first, copy it, add it to my deck. First things first, I'll put into jisho, see the definition. So suitable, appropriate, benefiting, okay. Check the pitch accent. I always add the particle after the word for pitch accent because you don't know if it could drop down at the end or not. So yeah, so it's a heiban word, which means it starts low, goes high, doesn't go back down. If you want a separate video on pitch accent, I'm by no means an expert, but I'd be glad to talk more about it just because I find people don't really talk about it much with learning Japanese. But yeah, basically I'll take a screenshot of the pitch accent chart, I'll add it into the deck, then I'll add in the English definition. And for words that are just random and I've just found in different various sources, I'll usually just use one of jisho.org's staple sentences. You can just click the word, do hashtag sentences, and then a bunch of sentences will come up. I'll usually scroll through reading a bunch and I'll pick the one that looks most useful to me, one that I can actually see myself using. So let's see, you should try to live within your income. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, I'll copy that sentence, paste it. If I don't know any of the readings besides the target word, I'll write them beneath, but this one I think I'm pretty good. Bunso no kurashi. Oh, delete kurashi. Yeah, kurashi o suru you ni subeki da. Okay, and then I'll click add and go to the next one. I just finished putting all the new words into my Anki deck. Each day, it's usually around 15 to 20 new words and sentences. One thing that I wanted to say that I think a lot of people forget when studying languages is that it's very important to speak. So as I go through each new word, I say it out loud, I practice the pronunciation, and I repeat it again and again until it sounds natural to me. Before I go through my Anki deck and study the new cards along with the old ones, I'm going to take a break to brush my teeth, get some coffee, and drink some water. So I'll be back. I got my coffee. My mom was actually kind enough today to get me a coffee from a local cafe near here. I'm very grateful for her. Comes in clutch. Very delicious. I didn't have to make my own. Okay, so now I'm going to go through my Anki deck for the day. One thing I like to do is while I'm going through the deck, I'll record my voice using a computer app called Audacity. That way I'll have a record of my progress. If I want to check my pronunciation on certain words and sentences, I can do that. It's just a fun thing and it's easy to do, so why not? So here I go. 政府はもっと私たちのことを考えてほしいもの。Finished my Anki deck for the day. Usually around this time I'm feeling really good because I did the bulk of my sit at the desk memorization studying. My mind is sharp and I'm ready to take on the day. Usually around this time is when I'd be heading to class or have some other type of obligation to get dressed for, but for obvious reasons with Corona, that's not going on right now. Instead, I'm planning to go out to my garden, probably do some weeding or some other type of work. And while I do that, I like to do passive studying, which is listening to podcasts, maybe listening to a video, listening to Japanese music, or so on. Before I put on that podcast and go to my next step of studying, I usually like to take a break, play some music. Album that just came out, I think yesterday, that I'm absolutely loving is the new Rina Sawayama album. Highly recommend, but I plan to bump that album full through, chill in my room for a bit, and get back to work. While we're on the topic of music, I thought it'd be worth noting that I don't really find listening to Japanese music to be the best method of studying. The grammar's a little weird sometimes it's hard to hear what they're saying, but that being said, I still do like Japanese music just to listen to for pleasure, and I do think it's better than nothing. Also, while I was in Japan, I noticed that talking about Japanese artists is a great conversation starter when you're speaking with people, so it's definitely not for nothing, but in terms of things that you can do to improve your Japanese the quickest, listening to Japanese music isn't one of them in my opinion. Today it's raining outside and I don't really have any work in particular to do in the farm, so I'm just gonna chill in my room for now, listen to the podcast here, and while I'm listening to the podcast, probably played myself some Switch, got the new Animal Crossing of course, so play that in Japanese while listening to the Let's Speak Japanese podcast. Okay, so I'm done listening to the podcast for today. Each episode's about 30 minutes and I usually listen to them a few times before moving on to the next one. Today I listened to this one twice while playing on my Switch. Now I'm going to get back into some more active studying. One thing I've liked to do lately is go onto the NHK News website, just pick any article and just copy it here into my notebook. It's good writing practice. If I see any vocab I don't know that I think is useful, I'll put it into my notes app to add to Anki tomorrow. And yeah, I'm gonna get started with that right now. Okay, well, this morning there was literally nothing going on, so I was able to just sit down and do all my different studying things at once. I got it all done within the morning. But usually it's not like this. Usually I'll do 15 minutes of Anki deck on the train, 15 minutes between classes. I'll check an article, I'll read it while I have a little free time here. I'll copy down some of the sentences there. The hard part about studying a language, I find, is squeezing it in no matter what. So when we're all home for coronavirus, it's easy to sit at your desk and make free time for it. But when you're going about your daily life, which we all will get back to eventually, hopefully, it's important to always have Japanese, always have the language you want to learn on your mind. So then whenever you have a free moment, you're not going to pull out your phone and check Instagram. You're not going to turn on that Netflix show. You're going to write some Japanese words. You're going to do some studying. I feel like getting back into some more active studying, so now I'm going to hop into some grammar. Recently, what I've liked to do for grammar is watch YouTube videos, specifically by this great channel called Nihongo no Mori. They have a bunch of different levels of video for each JLPT, and I'll just watch them. I'll follow along with their explanations. They teach in Japanese, and then I'll write down the example sentences and practice my writing that way. There are two different types of studying. There's active study and then there's passive study. Both are extremely important. Active studying is when I'm studying new vocab, grammar, I'm writing, I'm sitting at my desk completely focused on the information, on the Japanese content. Passive studying is things such as podcasts, YouTube videos for entertainment, anime, movies. These things are also really important because it's good to just surround yourself with the language, get used to how it sounds, but you can be doing other things at the same time. It can be on in the back, and it's not as engaged. You're not as engaged in the work. So like I said in the beginning, this isn't exactly what I do every single day. I like to switch things up to keep it interesting, but I do most of this stuff every day. I can't remember the last time I've spent less than 3 hours a day studying. It's been this way for about 2 years now. It sounds crazy, but you get used to things. I enjoy it a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting even better. So if you guys like videos like this, you want to see more, you want to hear more about how I've been studying Japanese, make sure to leave a comment, and I'll be happy to make more. Thanks guys. Peace.